Today we have the two main panelists, and I will make a final presentation wrapping up. So first, I will ask Raghvendra Verma to address you, and then after that, Adam Desislava, and thereafter we'll have
Thank
a discussion.
You, Mr. Rao. Thank you.
7.5 minutes is.
Yeah, sure. I will try my best to limit myself within the time. So I just skipped my introduction part. Yesterday already introduction has been done, so I will skip that. So I belong to the IT and ITS sector, and we are the service provider. So cybersecurity is one of the major concerns for us. And when we talk about cybersecurity, we have to understand the cybercrime, because it's security against the cybercrime only. And we need to know the scale of the cybercrime, that we can understand the importance of the cybersecurity. So as per the cybercrime report, the cybercrime is these days second largest reported economic crime. And it is expected that damage inflicted may be around $6 trillion by 2021. You can imagine $6 trillion. And it would be the third largest economy after USA and China. Further, as per report, by 2025, this industry will reach $10 trillion. As per another report, they surveyed the company. 2/3 of the company experienced cyber incidents in 2019, and the cost of each incident was $500,000. And the most surprising part was that 56% of the company says they don't have data prevention plan in the system or the breach response plan in the system. And all this cybercrime, IP theft and the financial crime constitute 75% of the total financial crime. And IP theft, proprietary information, you can understand how important for this organization. Your data has been sold, your proprietary information has been sold to your competitor, you are gone, you lost the business. Another important aspect I want to touch here, that it take downtime. It take a company lost around 8 hours per week because of the downtime due to this cyber crime. And then 90 hours is take from the identification of till the mitigation of this cyber incidents. So company is losing a lot of efficiency here. And since we are sitting in UAE, so I will touch about UAE. UAE is the second largest targeted country as far as cyber crime is concerned, and cost of $1.4 million USD per year. So you can understand how this crime is going, and what measure you should take to secure the company against this cyber crime. And I will little touch, and then I hand over to Deji. What is the reason of this cyber crime? And this would be surprising to know. The technology is empowering these criminals. They are taking the advantage of this technology advancement to do these crimes. And like malware is one of the major form of, and ransomware is one of the major form of the cyber crime. And nowadays, malware writing is automated. Artificial intelligence is being used for identification, target identification. Dark web is being used for keeping them anonymous. They are anonymous, we cannot identify them. Cryptocurrency is another major factor they provide to hide the proceed of the crimes. And criminal investigation proceed of the crime is one of the main factor. Internet of the Things is providing device for massive denial of the service attack. Denial of the service attack, I believe you must be knowing that is impact your production, impact your services. And we know that many companies, Sony Pictures incidents was one of the major incidents that erode your shareholder value, erode your brand reputation, erode your financial wealth. So what need to be done? The answer is we need to be secure your cyber space. Cybersecurity means securing your cyber space. So just how to secure cyberspace will dealt in the panel discussion. Introduction part, I will handing over to Deji. Thank you, Deji.
Thank you very much. So one thing which is very important to consider when we talk about cybersecurity is that this is not just an IT problem or an info security problem. That's a boardroom problem, and that's a legal problem, and that can be a huge financial issue for companies. And then moving for the very relevant introduction to what could be the legal exposure for an organization should a breach occur. So I'll just tell you very quickly 2 stories. You may have heard about the Marriott case in 2018. So basically there was an issue with the Starwood hotels, which are owned by Marriott. And in the period of 4 years, between 2014 and 2018, everyone who stayed or who booked a room in Starwood, everyone's data was exposed. So that's 4 years. What followed next, of course, once it was discovered, is a very serious fine for Marriott. But what's also interesting, it's that a class suit was also brought in the UK. And we're talking millions of people. Basically, every single person who stayed there in these 4 years can now join the class suit against Marriott. And that's, I think, each organization would want to prevent that. And what Marriott was accused was of failing to protect both technically and organizationally, of protect and ensure the personal data of its customers. We're talking about million people, really. And they were fined 18.4 million British pounds for that. Now let's see what the class suit will come out with. And then there's also another very relevant case with Equifax. I don't know whether you're aware, but Equifax is a credit assessment agency in the US, which basically assesses the credit position of almost each and every American. So in 2017, they were also targeted with an attack which exposed the data of around 143 million Americans, which basically means like 40% of the population of the US. Their data was out there. What happened was that Equifax, they failed in many steps. It was not just one thing. They failed in protecting the information. They failed afterwards in managing the breach, in notifying, basically in almost everything. So they were hacked in 2017 through a customer care portal, through some sort of vulnerability, which should have been patched much earlier. So they just neglected it. And then this information, the attackers started exfiltrating the information in an encrypted mode. And that was again, it was not detected because Equifax, they failed to renew their encryption certificate. So it was a series of steps which led to that. And what was even more alarming is the company's response afterward. So they did not notify about the breach, I think, for a month and a half, which is, of course, shocking. The aftermath of all this is that they had to pay, I think they had not been fined by now, but they had to pay $143 billion of dollars to just fix their security systems. And more or less the same amount on consumer complaints in some sort of a record-breaking settlement with the U.S. Federal Trade Commission. So it is relevant. In terms of classifying legal exposure, this is the class action that can happen in certain countries. This is the fines, which are usually imposed by the regulators. And fines could be for failure to protect the personal data, but they could also be for failure to notify regulators on time, or also to failure to cooperate. So it's really important to keep in mind all these obligations that each company has under the data protection laws, basically to notify, to cooperate, to just be adequate after it happens. Because it does happen. It can happen to each and every company, but it's very important how we as companies react after that. And I'm not even going to mention all the contractual breach that can come out of such cybersecurity breaches, in all these customer damages and so on. So that's why I think it's very important to think about the mitigation plan of legal exposure due to breach. And we can think about it in certain, steps. What do we do as companies before the breach has occurred? What do we do while? And what do we do after that? And just to focus on before, and then I'll just pass the stage to my colleagues. Before the breach, it's very important that we document what we do, document our policies in that respect, the info security policies, and imagine the breach occurs. What do we do after that? It has to be very properly broken down into steps, into stakeholders, into task owners, and in a way that all of them know what they have to do. Because, when the breach occurs, you have 3 days to notify, and then in 3 days, a company cannot come up with a whole set of plans and procedures if they're not prepared before that. So there should be an incident management team assigned before an incident occurs. And the company should, that goes without saying, it should invest in the proper cybersecurity solutions, from firewalls to intrusion detection or prevention systems, all these technical things that we as lawyers may not be so focused on. And then on a contractual side, it's very important to ensure that the contracts that our company would have with third parties would have the relevant provisions about breach. For example, notification. We would want them to notify us if a breach occurs on their side, because this may impact us, this may impact our customers. So we would want them to notify us, we would want them to notify us within a certain period of time, and we would want these contracts to have some sort of mechanism to deal with breach. And first and foremost, we need to know that it has happened. And then even before a breach occurs, we should have, as I mentioned, the clear roles assigned within the company, and they should also all know what they have to do. For example, we have HR who would have to notify the employees if needed, or help with certain employee-related investigation, and also, of course, IT to focus on the IT exposure, and info security team. They have to do the big part of the job, of course, but also the corporate communications team, because one of the key areas after the breach occurs would be how we communicate it through the public, to the customers, to everyone, and finance even to help monitor finance at that point, and of course legal. So these stakeholders need to be aware of their role in this situation. So maybe my colleague can just talk more about what happens during the breach and what can we do about that.
Mr. Rao, you want to add something? Or?
Yeah. No, I have a presentation which I will make, and if Bharti permits, because our session was to start at 10:50 or something, so we have some time. Can I make a presentation for about 10 minutes or so? Yeah, because your previous session was shortened and
yeah, that's very, very correct, because this topic is so vast. It cannot be covered in half an hour. And I request Abhishek and Bharti to give us 10 more minutes, please. So there's many things to cover. Okay, thank you.
Are you winding it up faster? Because we were supposed to start at 9:50 or something, and then go until 10:20 or something like that. No? All right, because this presentation would, yeah, and I think they would also for a discussion we would like to have a discussion on the thing, because they are all okay. Let me
give 5 to 10 minutes. Sorry, because it will be very interesting. Okay.
Good morning, all of you. Is this mic working? Yeah. Yes. Just please check. I have to put this on my this thing. Oh, for changing. Can you do it when I just indicate to you? So it'll help. Good morning, all of you. I was just saying to Bharti that maybe we don't have the full house here, but I'm sure they're all watching us on the today's communication. So there's a lot more participation as opposed to what can be seen physically, and that's the world we are living in, and that's a reality. I would like to talk about cybersecurity on two basic grounds. One is, what is the architecture of cybersecurity and the laws in India, and what is the scenario in the international sphere. So I'll quickly run you through, because as you are aware that India is a leader in the IT sector, and we are second to none today in the IT sector. So we are very, very familiar. We have a robust, sound IT framework running in the government as well as in the private sector. Private sector much ahead. Private sector, we drive it from Bangalore. The whole of south of India is the IT hub, and we drive it. We are directly connected to the United States or any place in the world. Like the other day, we had a gathering where Microsoft is present in more than 120 countries and pays tax there. So one of our leading IT companies which develop software, etc. Now, that's the title. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, we have a law which is called the India Information Technology Act. In that act, we have defined everything: cybersecurity, cybercrime, and all about telecommunications and internet data transfers. So there is nothing left to imagination of anybody. And this law, as you can see, is of 2000. The next slide, please. Now, we have also framed rules in 2011, which are called the Information Technology Rules. These rules guide our police system, our digital, management system, and the data protection, which is expected by both public and private sector. Then we have the Information Security Practices Rules, which we framed in 2018. And then we have guidelines also of 2011. And in 2013, we have the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team and manner of... This is where cyber attacks. So our entire legal framework about cyber attacks, etc., is 8 years old. And then we have another set of rules called the Computer Emergency Response Team. So we have framed rules and guidelines for dealing with the management of our computer systems and the laws regarding it very early, and we are as up to date any country can be in this area. The next slide, please. Now, the banking sector, our Reserve Bank, the central bank, which is called the Reserve Bank of India, as itself, again, it controls the entire financial system, the banking system, and on a day-to-day basis gives directions and guidelines to protect our banking computer systems and management. And then we have tribunals. We have got the Cyber Regulation Appellate Tribunal, which is if anybody has any grievance against government interference, any private interference, etc., it could go to the tribunal. Then thereafter that, all of our telecommunication and our health insurance, etc., everything is controlled, and every individual and corporate entity is to be registered on the web portals of the government. And you would have, some of you must have read about our vaccination program, entire digital vaccination program for entire 1 billion plus people is being carried out by the government. So our digital infrastructure systems are absolutely, worked out to perfection. Our election system, we have a card by which you can vote in the country. This is all completely computerized. Next slide, please. Now, there are teams formed, and we have an Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center. She was mentioning, we take cybercrime very seriously. The entire police force has one person assigned for tackling cybercrime, registering evidence that is collected on WhatsApp chats, emails. All of this can be, within a matter of seconds, all the data can be procured by the police force in the case of a crime. And our act makes all digital data evidence. Good old days you had, documents, that was evidence. No. Today, all digital data is evidence. Text messages, WhatsApp chats, emails, even video conferencing. Now, we have to go to the next level. Because of the pandemic, cybersecurity laws and cyber regulations have become even more important. Now, I've had cases where aggrieved people have taken screenshots or recorded Zoom conversations and said, here is the crime. So, and then we have a national cybersecurity coordinator. And for our defense systems, we have a defense system cybersecurity coordinator. So practically every area of the government in which deals with the cybercrime and security, defense, everything is completely with the security, and we have the security mechanisms in place for dealing with the computer systems and servers performance. And they are regulated by law. It is not in the realm of just technical in the realm of technical management. It's by law, by legal framework that the technical management takes place. It's not the other way around. Next slide, please. So we have the various sections of the ITAC 2000, which is our central enactment, punishments. Then we have, fraudulently using electronic signature, fraudulently receiving communication, cheating. There are many people who send out saying that, we want this, we want that, and then they cheat you. So that's immediately you can go and register crimes. There is the cybercrime cells deal with stalking, sending of obscene messages and harassing women, sexually harassing women, etc. It's instantaneous. All you have to go to a website and say so-and-so from such and such number, such and such email ID is sending obscene messages, etc. Immediately the police will take care. Section 85. It gives the companies also. It brings companies also into the ambit of cybercrime. Next slide, please. Again, section 43 of the Act. If you were to pilfer data from your company, then if you were to take away your company data, then even anybody who owns the computer systems, etc. So we also have the company's management and administration rules of 2014, which ensures that electronic records and securities are insulated from unauthorized access and tampering. So we have created and our penal code, which is 1860s, which is the criminal enactment, that also goes and supports it as crime. Next slide, please. Now we have some cases of bank fraud, $171 million. Some of the, they call phishing attacks and, other malware attacks and all of these. Even our nuclear plant was attacked. Recently in Mumbai, the entire power was shut off by some non-state actors, and the power we had to do it. Next, and that's the case in which the 2014 case, it was really about the electronic record. Next slide, please. So the government is very much in control of our cyberspace laws and data protection, and we have a robust, sound legal system dealing with this. Now, coming to the second part of it, the international law. In the international law arena, as he explained, it's trillions of dollars that it is lost in cybercrime. So there is no control or regulation. As an international body, till date, there is none. And The two agencies which deal with it is ITU, International Telecommunication Union, and the ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Numbers. The ICANN deals with the entire internet structure. Now the ICANN has to move forward. Till today, because of freedom of internet, in the name of freedom of internet, there has not been any regulation. So we need to have a model law which can be adopted by everybody. You know how international law is treated as weak law because nobody agrees easily. So we've had state responsibility law where terrorism and other things originating from any country is dealt with, and that gradually kept getting adopted. We have law of the sea in international law, which was a convention. Gradually every country started adopting it. Like that, we've not so far been able to create is international cyber law which will be universally and gradually accepted by countries, and we need to get there. Because of the pandemic, so much of transactions are going on internet. I'm going to wind up, she says. So, 50, look at that. She's on the contrary saying, yes, carry on. It's good. People can see you in the rest of the world. Now, given the fact that the international law needs to be developed. Now, for instance, China does not allow anyone to access Facebook, WhatsApp, anything. And yet, if you ask some of the people, some of the security agencies in that, the Mumbai power was, cyber attack was originating in China. Non-state actors are doing it. But this is where we need the advancement in law. I would suggest every country strengthens their cyber laws the way India has done it, taking a cue, best practices, and B, work toward through their governments and diplomatic agencies for a codified, standardized cyber laws. For instance, the United States, which has taken its leadership in this, on terrorism and money laundering, terror financing. What it simply does is any money comes into the United States which is terror funding, they just go and lock it up. They freeze the accounts. They say this is terror. And then now individual countries with having jurisdiction on what goes on in their country can have stringent cyber laws where they protect their countries from cybercrime, which we have done. Well, I would say odd instances are going to be there, but mostly 80 to 90% of all security issues have been tackled, and they continue to be working and developing towards us because we have a strong IT infrastructure which works towards systems by which you can deal with it. Now, Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks, if you must have heard, was leaking out data and information everywhere. Now, some of them may offend somebody, but he went and took, refuge in some country, etc. But that's another matter. But I'm just telling you, giving you as an example that a person sitting in some other jurisdiction can destroy your computer systems, can spread false information, can support terror financing, can support drugs, the entire offenses relating to drug trafficking. So all of this is there. So all countries need not only to strengthen their own cybersecurity infrastructure and systems, but also you have to work because just the principles of international law as they've evolved, I can say, like pollution, polluter pays. Now, any country which has got gas emanating industries and that goes and pollutes the next country, creates diseases, creates pollution, air pollution, is made liable today under international environmental law. Polluter pays, state responsibility. If there is any damage that is caused by any non-state actor which you have failed to control in your own state to a neighboring state, the state gets responsible. So therefore, today it's a time for everybody to reflect, think and support an international legal framework which addresses the problem of cyber crimes which originate in another country. Now you have digital currency, bitcoins and digital currency, which is in India it is illegal. But there are transactions that are going on by digital currency. Now which sort of bypass the regular currency regulations of your country. So how do you tackle that? They will make payments, they will purchase raw material, resources, sometimes arms, ammunition, anything. The digital currency is your new enemy for misuse against an international order. Now, we have moved towards an international order where we are gathering like this and we are become connected because we are moving towards a unipolar world in one sense that you are in real time simultaneously be able to see this. So this is what I would leave you with all of us to debate. We have another 10 minutes for debate and discussion. So my conclusion is that we have gone ahead as in India with our cybersecurity laws and we with our IT systems. I wish and urge and hope that all other countries would do that and work for an infrastructure, a management, and a legal framework which will protect all countries. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. So, Bharti, questions are coming, so we can take questions because there are a lot many things we'll address while answering the question.
Thank you so much, everyone, for this insightful session. So we have some questions from our virtual attendees. So there is a first question from a law student, Mr. Prasad. So he is asking, what is the basic problem in dealing with the issues of cybersecurity by the company?
Okay, so I can take? Yeah. So basically, like Mr. Rao said that the basic problem while handling this cyber crime is coming, cyber security basically, that the international, most of the cyber crime is cross-border these days. I can give you an example, like we are sitting in UAE, so we can take the example of UAE. Person sitting in UAE, just with the help of internet and computer, at the same time access a website in India and purchase some goods. Within 5 minutes, he moved to US and purchased some goods. After 5 minutes, he moved to UK website, purchased some goods. While he purchasing that goods, he was using the false credit card. All purchase is being done with the false credit card. And incidentally, the person whose credit card is forged is the citizen of Africa, let's say Nigeria. So, which jurisdiction will apply here? Fraud has happened in India, fraud has happened in US, fraud has happened in USA, and also in Nigeria. Nigerian person will go to their law enforcement agency to file the claim. How to track down this person? So, the basic feature of the cyberspace is provide anonymity. It's borderless jurisdiction and is providing anonymity. So, as Mr. Rao rightly said, that the legal community has to align to standardize the procedural law, their substantive law. International cooperation is very much. The second major part that I want to mention here that the recognition of the foreign judgment. For say, if India give the verdict, yeah, this person is guilty. But this judgment can be recognized in US, that person is, or UAE, because this person is sitting in UAE. So this judgment will be recognized and enforced in UAE. This is the question. So that legal community has to think a lot on that to come over this problem. Anything want to add?
So we have more questions, Mr. Rao.
Please.
I would address it to Desi. So this question is from Michael. He's our virtual attendee. So since work from home arrangements will most likely continue even after the pandemic, so what are your recommendation best practices in terms of cybersecurity and data privacy for employers?
Well, obviously, I'm not a cybersecurity person from a technical perspective. I'm a lawyer. But I think since we mostly work from home lately, it is very important that everyone is trained about cybersecurity. So, for example, you being an employee of an organization, you have to be able to recognize a phishing email from an authentic email. So once you receive an email assuming you're the legal counsel of the company, and your boss, suddenly you receive an email from your boss, from your CEO, which says, now can you please wire $20,000 to this account because of this and that project? This is a red flag. You're a lawyer or you're a compliance person. You're not supposed to wire money. You're not supposed to authorize wiring money. So some things you have to think twice about. I think this is very important. So be very aware of these possible ways of how cybersecurity attacks happen, because many times they happen through people. They may happen through cybersecurity vulnerabilities, but the real vulnerability are humans. And we see it every day. Companies receive these emails, please wire this $500,000 because of this and that project, and you'll be surprised to see how often people who are not supposed to do that, they do that. So you check the email, the domain or the email where this message is coming from, and apply some basic common sense in these interactions. And then this is just one example. Of course, each organization, as I mentioned, has to be prepared technically with procedures on how to do that. How do we store our laptops? How do we open our laptops, etc., etc. But there are some things which each and every one of us can do, and this is applying common sense and understanding how this can happen.
I just want to add 2 points. That obligation of the organization being the cybersecurity come from 2 parts. One is the legal aspect. Like the specific question was the work from home. So the person need to check what is their regulatory landscape says about the work from home. So that need to be adhered. That's very important there, because what law says, what rules, regulation, and the measures you have to take when you are allowing your employee to work from home. Another part that Deji covered, that training, contractual obligation, and the training of the employee is very important here. How you train your employee, how you bring all department of the organization together. HR role is very important, IT role is very important, lawyer role is very important here. They all should come together and train the people, train the person.
Thank you, Mr. Verma. We'll be taking one more question from our...
I have one question from Dr. Rao. I believe that personal data protection law has not been promulgated in India yet. Come again, please. The personal data protection law has not been promulgated in India yet. Could you please tell us what is the stage of that law?
See, all of these laws, they cover personal data protection.
I was told that it is at the bill stage. Probably it is put before the parliament for approval.
You see, personal data protection is covered by all of this. What is within the realm of your proprietary information, which you do not, if you do not choose to share, cannot be just acquired by anybody or appropriated by anybody. These laws are very well they cover those situations.
Okay.
But if we need to go into some nuances of personal data protection, like if you and me share some pictures and you have, without my knowledge, disseminated them, we are going to a little more finer aspects when you talk about personal. These kind of situations perhaps not entirely may not be covered by this thing, and that is personal data protection, which is also part of privacy. The privacy laws there concerns. If there is any information which you acquire in good faith from me, or I acquire in good faith from you, and I disseminate it to the disadvantage of you and causing injury to you, then that would be covered by privacy laws and other defamation laws. But giving it a particular, a space in a legal framework, perhaps has not been said so specifically. Although these situations are covered, that may come about any time, because sometimes some of those situations don't exactly get covered under the existing law.
Absolutely.
So it's only a matter of time that something like that will come.
Yeah, that was actually the purpose of my question. In Pakistan, the personal data protection law is at bill stage. And it's likely to be approved by a cabinet very soon, and that it will be put before the cabinet, the parliament. And I asked this question because in that particular personal data protection law, there are certain provisions.
Ours is
provisions like Desi mentioned about the notification of the breach, timelines of notification and the penalties. So that specific nitty-gritties are mentioned in that law.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Something that I wanted to add, and just if you want me to make some final remarks, there are one aspect that I want to emphasize here is all organizations must have a cyber law expert who is dealing with IT aspects as well. In order, today's world, you cannot do without it. All organizations must have a cyber law expert familiar with IT with background as well. Second thing, that there should be a credit rating of countries. Just like a credit rating, how effective is your cyber laws? Every country should be known by a standardized credit rating of how effective they have cyber laws. I think that would make a huge difference, because post-pandemic, we need more and more effective cyber laws. Thank you.
So I take 30 seconds, just only 30 seconds. See, what I understand from discussion that people, generally common people confuse about the cybersecurity and the privacy. Cybersecurity is much vast subject than the privacy. Privacy is just a small part of the cybersecurity. So we need to be very careful on that, because we are very confused about the cybersecurity and the privacy law. Second thing, that whether any security can prevent the breach, answer is no. No security can prevent your breach. Criminals are much more sophisticated than your organization. So board role is very important in there. So this risk management should start from the board. Companies should build a culture of the being cybersecurity in the organization. Cybersecurity should be one of the mission, not that earlier only compliance part. This should be one of the mission of your organization. It should be agenda of the board. Board should take lead here. Upskilling of board is another important aspect. Board should know their contractual and legal obligation being cyber secure. An expert, that Mr. Rao said, expert capacity building, training, organizational structure should be built like you should have the proper capacity to identification, prevention, remedy. And like Desi said, that how effectively and efficiently are responding to the breach, that will determine the future of your company. So that's, thank you bearing with us.
Thank you, Mr. Verma. Thank you, Dr. Rao. Ms. Stankova, would you like to take another 30 seconds to conclude, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, that's a very vast topic. I just really wanted to concur on that. It's really important how the first, let's say, 24 hours or 3 days after the breach, because this decides everything. Just 5 days ago, it was announced in the press that Booking.com was fined like €500,000 just because they did not comply with the 72-hour data breach notification of the GDPR. So it's really that important. So just once it happens, reaction should be very fast. But of course, preparation starts much before that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Stankova.